Today we're going to work on Access Chapter 3 and open the file Exploring A03 Grader. Whenever I download the file, I go ahead and resave that file with my last name. If you end up uploading the file more than once, I suggest putting a 1, a 2, or a 3, or a 4 in front of your name as you upload those files for revisiting and grading. So that's my suggestion. You do what works best for you. Let's get started. That's the end of step 1. Step 2. Create a query using query design from the clients table, displaying the client's first and last name, and the accounts table. Let's get started with starting a query design. We know that right now for our all access objects, all we have is 3 tables. We do not have any queries at this point in time. So we're going to come over here to create. And we're going to go to the query panel and choose query design. When we do that, the show table dialog pops up. So Access is saying you have an accounts table, which we do, an agents table, which we do, and a clients table. We're only asked to work with the clients table, so I'm going to double click that. You can also click and add. And then we're also asked to work from the accounts table. And once we have both those tables on our query stage here, we can close the show table dialog box. And then I suggest taking a moment and expanding these to view. Once you can view them easy, then now we're able to take information. We're going to take these fields and put them down here in the query work area. So the first one is from the clients table, display the client's first name. And I like to come up here and double click and it will drop it down our field. And then it says also last name. You can also click that last name and drag it down into the field, the next field, and let go. From the accounts table, it's asking us to get savings balance. And I double click that one, and then open date, and I'm going to drag that one so you get to see that action. And then it asks us to sort the query by savings balance. So here's our savings balance and here's our sort row. We want to do that in descending order, so it'll have the largest value first. I'm going to say that's the end of step 2. Step 3 is asking us to add a calculated field name account time. So we will put that in this column right here. We want to calculate the number of days each client's account has been open. So we're assuming that today's date is December 31st, 2017. So one of the tips the question number 3 gives us is that we need to remember to put the number symbol around the date to help us tell Access that we're using dates now. Okay, so we're going to actually write a formula right here in our field column. And we're going to call this account time. And you do not want spaces with a colon. And then now we're going to take that date and subtract it from our open date field. But what we want to do first is go Shift 3 so we have that number symbol wrapped around the date field so it knows that we are indeed working with dates, or that Access knows. And then we want to go Shift 3 again at the end of our December 31st, 2017 date. So it again encapsulates the date field, and then we're going to subtract, and now we're going to type a square bracket, which is to the right of your P on your keyboard, and we're going to, I don't think I got that in there. Let's get that in there. There's that square bracket. All right, and then we're going to type the word open date just like we have in our field. Look in our field up here, up in the accounts table where we dragged it down here. Open is capitalized, date is capitalized, and no space. And then we want a close bracket, which is to the right of P, underneath your backspace. And once you've done that, you have your whole formula. You just hit enter, and then that formula has been put in for step 3. It's asking us also now, we're going to continue on. This is kind of like the second part of step 3. It's asking us to format the results in general number and to save the query as an account longevity. So let's finish the general number. Go ahead and make sure you've clicked in your field in your formula for account time, and then come up here in the design tab over here to the right to show and hide, and click on property sheet. Once you're in property sheet, you're going to find it really easy to come over here to format. There's a pull down menu when you click in that row right over here. See the little arrow? And we just want to make sure that we format it in general number, so it's going to be counting days for us, and that has been done. And now it says save the query as account longevity. I like to actually, highlight that term account longevity, so I make sure I spell it the way that the assignment desires. And then I'm going to come back up here to query, my query tab, and I'm going to right click and say save. And when I do that, it gives me a save as dialog box for naming my query. I'm going to control V to put account longevity in there, or you can type it. Here you can have a space because it's for easy reading in all access objects. I'm going to say OK. It does not ask us to run the query. It asks us then to close the query. I'm going to right click the tab and close, and we are done with step. Create a query using query design, which is where we went earlier. Remember, we went to create and then we went to query design. And from the clients table, display the client's first name. So we don't need the property sheet right now. I'm going to go ahead and close that. All right. So we're using the clients table. I'm going to double click to add that, or you can click it once and click add. And we're also going to use the accounts table. And since we have both of those, I'm going to close and enlarge my table. Now that we have our tables enlarged, we're going to display the client's first name, which is over here, and the client's last name. I'm going to show you the second path of click and drag. And then from the accounts table, we want savings balance. So we only needed 3 fields, and that's the end of step 4. Step 5, add an appropriate grouping. So the client's total retirement savings account balance, so we're talking about this third column here, are displayed. Add a sort for the highest total savings balance. Okay, let's start with making sure that we have a total retirement. And what I do is just, click in your fields down here and then come up to design, and we want to add totals. When we click totals, you'll see that it will add a row right down in here. We have field, table, sort, show, and criteria. So I'm going to come up to the design tab again. I'm going to click total one time. And when I do that, see how we have a new total row right here? Well, the default is to group by. So you're going to group by first name, then group by last name, and then group by savings. But it's asking us add a sort for the total savings balances and make sure that those totals are displayed first. So under savings balance and under total, we want to select sum. I'm going to click right here in the pull down, and I'm going to click sum. And then since we want total savings balance and we want the largest to be displayed first, with the highest total savings balance to play first, we want to sort the savings balance column right here. We want to sort this by descending, descending will give us the largest value first and the least value last. Ascending would give us the least value first. All right. And that would be the end of step 5. Step 6, switch to datasheet view. And we do that by coming over here to the view And we are on design view right now, and we want to go to data sheet view. It looks a little bit more like Excel, rows and columns. And add a total row displaying the count of the last name and the average of the total savings. All right, so we're going to add total, and that gives us a total down here in the bottom. And what we're looking for first is a count of last names. So here, your second column is your last names. We're going to click in that right underneath that last name column right here. We're going to click, and we have a pull down menu, and we just want them to count it. Count how many last names we have. We have 22 last names. And the average of the total savings balance. So here's our sums of savings, and we want a total, but we want an average. So we're going to click in the total row again, and we have our wonderful little pull down menu, and we want to select average. It's asking us to save the query as total balances by client. And I just copied that total balances as a client, and I came up here to query one, and I'm going to right click and say save. And when I do that, it gives me a save up dialog box. I'm going to put my copy pasted total balance by client in there and say okay. And when I do that, I'm going to right click my query. I saved it already, right? So now I'm going to close it. And we now have two queries in our all access objects. And that is the end of steps. Create a copy of the total balances by client query. When we do this, we come over here into the navigation pane. I right click my total balances query. I copy it, and then I click left in the all access objects navigation pane, and then I click right and I paste. And by doing that, it's saying, what do you want to paste it as? And it's saying total balances by state. So I'm just going to click in our query name here and change total balances and go over, instead of by client, I'm going to type by state. Make sure you capitalize the word state. And then click OK. And you will see a third query pop up right here in queries. And the next part of step 7 is to open the query in design view. I usually double click my query. It defaulted into datasheet view. That's fine. And I'm going to right click and say design view. You could have also right clicked your query and opened it in design view. Either way works. I'm sure there's more. And open the query in design view and remove the client's name from the query. Okay, when I interpreted this, I interpret this as removing the first name column. So I'm going to click at the top of the column, maybe. I'll start with the last name. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to click at the first name column, and I'm going to hit delete. And I have removed the name of the client. Name the query total balances by state. We did that. Open the query in design view, remove the client's name by the client's state. So to group by client state, we need this field of state right here down in our fields. And we need to group by, which it's already totaled and grouped by state. And because we have that total row. Does it say anything? Add the group state. And that's the end of step 7. Step 8. Sort by the client state in ascending order. So here's our state column right here, and here's our row, and we want to sort by. So we're going to go ascending, and that means A states will be listed first, Alabama, Alaska, and they will end with Z's in the alphabet, but we don't have any Z states. Add criteria so clients with a retirement account savings balance of $10,000 or more, so equal to or greater than, are factored into the query. And what we're going to do now is underneath criteria and underneath savings balance, we're going to hit criteria right here. And remember, we want it to be $10,000 or more. So we want it to be equal than or greater to 10,10123. Do not put columns, dollar signs, or commas. here in the criteria, the number 10,000 is what you're looking for. And we're going to save this query, and that'll be the end of step 8. So I'm going to right click on total and oops, I must have put a space here. 1 second. I think it's fair enough to say I made a mistake. I did descending of savings balances, and we did ascending of state, but now we don't need to the descending sort component. So I'm going to come over here into sort under, I'm going to erase this for a second. And I'm going to come under here on sort on savings balance, and I'm going to put not sorted because we just want the sum with a criteria of greater than or equal to $10,000. And press enter, and we should be okay now without a mistake. I apologize for that. We're going to say save by right clicking our tab, and we're going to close the query. And that's the end of step 8. 9. Create a new query using query design. We're going to come over here to create. We're going to go to query design, and we have the show table dialog box. It says from the clients table, so I'm going to pick clients table first. I double click that. And then from the accounts table, I'm going to click accounts. We have all the tables we need. I'm going to close the show table dialog box. I've expanded my table so I can see them easier. And it says from the clients table, select the client's first name, select the client's last name, and select the client's state. And then from the accounts table, select savings balance. And it's asking us to add a criteria so only customers with balances under 15,000 are displayed. So here's our row of criteria underneath our savings balance right here. And we're just going to go less than, and we're going to type 15000 and hit enter, and that's the end of step 9. Access 3, step 10. This step deals with using the expression builder to take a PMT function. The PMT function is a way to calculate monthly payments on a loan, usually used for like a house loan. So let's take a look. Add a new field named loan payment right here in this extra column using the expression builder. So we're going to click in our field here, and we're going to go to the builder. So Access will build the formula for us to calculate monthly payments. We go into functions underneath the expression elements. We go into built-in functions, and then we pick financial. If you've worked with Excel before, this is extremely similar. We're going to go here to PMT, and I'm going to double click that to get the formula to be out in our expression builder. And now we're going to start filling in components. One of the first things we need to think about is a 5% yearly interest rate. Well, since it's yearly, but we're going to have multiple payments, we will actually take that 5% and divide it by 12 for our monthly payments. But we also need to write this in decimal format. To get 5 into decimal format, we would divide that 5 by 100 and have 0.05. So I'm going to click on rate for interest rate, and I'm going to type 0.05, and I'm going to divide that by 12 for our monthly payments, all right? Should not be a question mark. That should be a division symbol. There we go. So now we have our rate. So now we need our number of periods. Well, our number of periods, we're going to have a 12-month period, but we are going to have a 2-year loan. So that's 24 months in that 12-year period. And then the present value is that $25,000. The present value is 25,000, so we take 25123, and the future we want to subtract that from our savings balance. So we're going to go ahead and go into our tables, which is here is our access that we're working on right now. And here are our tables. They're already listed for us. And our savings balance is over here under accounts. So we're looking for the accounts table. And once we find that, we want savings balance. And then that has been put inside our formula. We now want to shift and put a parentheses to wrap around that. We will not have a future value or a type. We're just going to delete that from our formula. And then we're going to press OK. Now, our expression has given us an expression 1. I'm going to click back into this expression 1 and backspace. The expression 1 is a default name by Access, but we know we want to name this loan payment. I'm going to make that all one word with loan and payment capitalized. And we actually forgot something. We need to add a negative because we're borrowing numbers. So I'm going to add a negative right before the loan payment, and then it will come out a positive value of our monthly payments. So let's go ahead, and that ensures displaying a positive number. And let's go ahead and run it. And it looks like we have an error under loan payments, but really we just need to double click and get sure fit. But the one thing we haven't done is to format that as currency. So we have our numbers. Let's go back into design view and come under loan payment here. And we're going to go to our property sheet and format that as currency. And then we'll go back and run it again. And you can see that we have a loan payments varying from $800 and something all the way up to $1,800 and $1,900. And that is putting a PMT formula inside Expression Builder inside Access. And that's the end of step 11. Change the format of loan payment field to currency. We actually did this in the last video, but I'd like to walk through it again. So I'm going to go back in my query to design view. And in design view, I'm going to bring up the property sheet. And then over in property sheet, I clicked, by having had been on loan payment, I clicked over here in format and made sure it was currency. And then it says change the caption to loan payment. So I'm going to highlight the word loan payment. And I'm going to come over here to caption, which is still on my property sheet. I'm going to paste that. So it will say loan payment for someone else who happens to be working on this Access database. And then it says save the query as monthly loan payments. And I'm going to copy that name, come up to my query 1 tab and hit save. When I do that, it gives me a save as naming dialog box. I paste monthly loan payments. I say OK. And we know the query runs. We did run it to make sure that we had our monthly loan payments. And we're going to right click and close. And that's the end of step 11. Step 12 asks us to close all database objects and submit for grading to my IT lab. Thanks for working with me. Way to do your best.